You ever get that gut feeling that something's off, but you can't quite explain why? That was me for months, pretending everything was fine, smiling through dinners, laughing at jokes that didn't feel funny anymore, and trying to convince myself that I was just being paranoid. My name's Emily, I'm 29, and until about a year ago, I thought I was living the dream. I had a good job, a cozy apartment in Seattle, and a boyfriend, Ryan, who I honestly thought was my forever person. We'd been together for almost 4 years, lived together for 2, and had started talking about getting married. At least, that's what I thought we were doing. Ryan wasn't perfect. No one is. But he was charming, funny, and made me feel safe. We met in college. He was the guy who'd stay late helping people with group projects and bring coffee to everyone before early morning classes. He wasn't just my boyfriend. He was my best friend. That's why I ignored the red flags when they started showing up. It started small, missed calls, late nights at work, vague explanations. I'm not the kind of girl who goes through her partner's phone or accuses them of cheating out of nowhere. That's just not me. But I'm also not stupid. I can tell when someone starts to pull away. Ryan used to text me all day, random memes, little check-ins, miss you messages in the middle of meetings. But lately, those had stopped. He'd come home distracted, barely talk during dinner, and always seemed to have an excuse ready. "I've just been swamped with work," he'd say, or "I'm exhausted, babe, can we talk later?" And later never came. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I'd been distant. Maybe I wasn't giving him enough attention. It's crazy how when you love someone, your brain automatically tries to make excuses for their behavior. But deep down, something didn't feel right. The turning point came one Friday night. Ryan had told me he was going out with some coworkers to celebrate the end of a big project. He said he might be late, so I stayed home, watched Netflix, and fell asleep waiting for him. When I woke up around 2 a.m., the bed was still empty. That's when the anxiety really kicked in. I called him, no answer, texted him, nothing. Checked his location on Find Me, he'd turned it off. He came home around 3:30 in the morning. His shirt was untucked, his hair messy, and he smelled like alcohol and perfume. Not my perfume, someone else's. He froze when he saw me sitting on the couch. "Oh, hey," he said, like I was the one intruding. "You're still up? Where were you?" I asked. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "I told you, babe, I was with coworkers," he replied, walking past me toward the kitchen. "We went to this bar near the office, had a few drinks. Chill, okay?" He kissed the top of my head as he passed, but it felt mechanical, forced. Something in my stomach twisted. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to him snore next to me, and all I could think about was that smell, that unfamiliar perfume. I wish I could say I confronted him then and there, but I didn't. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. The next few weeks were a blur of awkward small talk, fake smiles, and late nights. Ryan became more distant. He started guarding his phone like it held national secrets. He'd take calls in the other room, angle the screen away from me when he got notifications, and always had this nervous energy, like he was waiting for something to blow up. One night while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the dresser. I swear I didn't mean to look, it was instinct. My eyes flicked toward the screen, and that's when I saw it. A preview of a message from someone saved as Alex W by R read, "Can't stop thinking about last night." My stomach dropped. I picked up the phone, but it was locked. I just stood there, shaking, trying to process what I'd seen. Who was Alex? Why the heart emoji? What the hell did last night mean? When Ryan came out of the bathroom, I couldn't even look at him. My chest felt tight, my throat burned, and I knew I'd never be able to unsee that message. The next morning, I decided I needed answers. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went to his office. It wasn't some dramatic movie scene. I didn't barge in or make a scene. I just brought him lunch, like a surprise visit. Ryan looked startled when I walked in, but he smiled and played it cool.
That's when I met Alex. Except Alex wasn't a guy. She was a woman. Tall, blonde, and stunning. The kind of woman who made you question every ounce of confidence you ever had. When Ryan introduced us, her smile didn't reach her eyes. Something in the way she looked at him, it wasn't professional. And I knew. I didn't want to admit it, but I knew. That lunch was painfully awkward. Ryan barely made eye contact, and Alex kept glancing over from her desk, trying to hide it. When I got back home, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, just staring at the steering wheel. My hands were shaking, my heart felt like it had been ripped out. I couldn't tell anyone yet. I wasn't ready. Instead, I started noticing everything. The late nights, the urgent work calls, the random weekend errands that suddenly popped up. Every single sign pointed in the same direction. But the moment that broke me came 2 weeks later. Ryan told me he had to go to a conference in Portland, just overnight. He said he'd be back by Sunday evening. I didn't believe him. While he was packing, I watched him carefully fold his shirts, put in cologne, and check his phone every few minutes. My gut screamed that something was wrong. So, I decided to test him. When he left for the airport, I gave it an hour, then opened Find My iPhone. He'd forgotten to turn it off. His dot wasn't moving toward the airport. It was at a hotel, right here in Seattle. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. I called him. He didn't answer. Texted him. No reply. So I did the thing I swore I'd never do. I drove there. I sat in the parking lot for almost 30 minutes, trying to breathe. I didn't even know what I was hoping to see. Maybe I'd find out I was wrong. Maybe he was there for work after all. But then I saw him. He walked out of the hotel lobby, laughing, holding hands with Alex. I swear, time stopped. The world went quiet, like someone hit mute on everything around me. They got into his car and drove off, still laughing, still holding hands, like they hadn't just shattered my entire world. I remember gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I wanted to scream, cry, throw something. But I just sat there, frozen. After they drove away, I went home, numb. When Ryan came back the next night, he walked in with flowers. "Conference went great," he said, smiling like nothing happened. That's when something inside me snapped. But I didn't confront him, not yet. Because if he was going to lie to me, I was going to make sure I had proof. And that's where everything started to spiral out of control.
The night Ryan came home from that so-called conference, smiling with a bouquet of lilies in his hand, I realized I was done being naive. I accepted the flowers, forced a smile, and said thank you, but inside I was shaking. Not from fear anymore, but from rage. The kind that simmers quietly beneath your skin until it starts to feel like poison. For the first time in our relationship, I looked at him and didn't see my boyfriend. I saw a liar. He chatted about his trip, told me how the hotel had great service and how the presentation went well. I sat across from him at the table, nodding, pretending to listen, while my mind replayed the image of him holding Alex's hand in that hotel parking lot. Every laugh, every affectionate touch that night felt fake, rehearsed. He was performing for me. And I decided that if he wanted to play games, I was going to beat him at his own. I started small. Over the next few days, I watched him closely. How he guarded his phone, how he always kept it face down, how he smiled to himself when a text came in. I began memorizing his patterns. When he left for work, when he stayed late, and when he came home. I started saving everything. Screenshots, call logs, even Uber receipts from his email that he forgot I had access to. The first thing I found was a receipt from that same hotel,
Dated the weekend he said he was in Portland. 2 nights, 1 room, 2 breakfasts charged to the bill. My hands were trembling when I read it. That was all the confirmation I needed. But something inside me wanted to see how deep the rabbit hole went. The next step was getting access to his phone. Ryan had Face ID enabled, but he often fell asleep on the couch with his phone in his hand. One night, after he passed out halfway through a movie, I carefully held his phone up to his face. It unlocked. My heart pounded as I opened his messages. I scrolled, searching for Alex, work. And there it was. The thread went back months. Flirty messages, inside jokes, late night, can't sleep, thinking about you, texts. I scrolled further, and then I saw photos. Not explicit, but intimate. A picture of them at dinner, her hand on his, a mirror selfie of her in his hoodie, and voice notes. I press play on one. Miss you already. I wish you didn't have to pretend with her. Her voice. Sweet, soft, familiar now. I dropped the phone. My whole body was shaking. I don't remember how long I sat there staring at that screen, trying to breathe through the wave of betrayal that hit me like a truck. It's one thing to suspect. It's another to see it, to hear it. When Ryan woke up, I pretended to be asleep. I didn't trust myself not to scream. The next day, I called in sick for work. I needed time to think. I made a folder on my laptop. For me. I moved every screenshot, every receipt, every message I could find into it. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let him gaslight me. For a week, I lived like that. Acting normal, pretending everything was fine. I'd make breakfast, laugh at his stupid jokes, and kiss him goodnight. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I was building a case like some undercover detective. But the hardest part wasn't keeping the secret, it was pretending not to care. Because the truth is, I still loved him. And that made me hate myself. The night everything came crashing down started like any other. Ryan said he was working late again. I didn't even ask where. I just said, okay, be safe. An hour later, my friend Megan texted me. Hey, are you and Ryan at Luna Bar? I froze. No. Why? I texted back. She sent a picture. It was Ryan, sitting at the bar, laughing with Alex. His hand was on her thigh. That was it. The anger that had been building for weeks exploded all at once. I called Megan. Don't say anything to them, I said. Just tell me exactly where you are. I threw on a jacket, grabbed my keys, and drove. By the time I got there, they were still at the bar, oblivious.
Parked across the street, my heart beating so fast I could barely breathe. I watched them through the window, the way he leaned in close to her, how she touched his arm like she owned him. And that's when it hit me. He was gone. The man I loved didn't exist anymore. I could have gone in, could have screamed, caused a scene, thrown a drink in his face, but instead, I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo. Then I drove away. When I got home, I sat on the floor, staring at that picture. It was the final piece of proof. That night, I made a plan. I wasn't going to confront him in private, not after everything he'd done. I wanted him to feel the humiliation I'd felt, so I decided to do it at his upcoming birthday dinner. His parents were coming, his friends, even Alex. He'd invited her, claiming she was a work friend. I smiled when he told me. That's sweet of you, I'd said. Can't wait to meet everyone. He had no idea. The next week felt like walking through a minefield. Every morning, I woke up beside him, pretending everything was fine. I packed lunches, kissed him goodbye, and watched him walk out the door to meet her. Every night, I added more to my folder. Emails, pictures, even Venmo payments for hotel stays and drinks. By the time his birthday rolled around, I was ready. The dinner was at this fancy restaurant downtown. Ryan's mom hugged me when I arrived, saying how excited she was that we were finally thinking about engagement. I almost laughed. We ordered wine, appetizers, and made small talk. Ryan was in his element, charming, smiling, oblivious. And then she walked in. Alex, wearing a red dress that screamed confidence. Ryan's face lit up like a Christmas tree when he saw her. He introduced her to everyone. "This is Alex. She's one of my closest friends from work." I smiled. "Oh, I've heard so much about you," I said sweetly. We all sat down. The conversation flowed, but I barely heard any of it. I was waiting for the right moment. When dessert arrived, Ryan's mom raised a glass. "To my son, may this be your best year yet." Everyone clapped. That's when I stood up. "I actually have a toast too," I said. Ryan smiled, looking proud. "Oh, babe." I cut him off. 4 years, Ryan. 4 years together. I thought I knew everything about you, but turns out I didn't know the man sitting next to me at all. The table went silent. His mom frowned. "Emily, what?" I pulled out my phone, connected it to the restaurant's Bluetooth speaker, and pressed play. Alex's voice filled the room. "Miss you already. I wish you didn't have to pretend with her." The color drained from Ryan's face. Gasps, confusion, then silence. Alex froze, her hands trembling. Ryan stammered, "Emily, what the hell are you doing?" I looked him dead in the eye. "I'm showing everyone who you really are." I held up my phone, showing the photo from the bar. "You and Alex, last Friday." His dad cursed under his breath. His mom looked like she was going to cry. Alex stood up, grabbed her purse, and walked out without a word. Ryan tried to follow her, but I stepped in his way. "Don't bother," I said quietly. "You've already lost everything worth keeping." And then I left. I didn't look back. When I got home, I blocked his number, packed a bag, and went to stay with Megan. I cried for hours, ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that came from somewhere deep inside. But mixed with the pain was relief. For the first time in months, I felt free. But as the days went on, I realized the story wasn't over, because Ryan wasn't done, and he was about to make things even worse. The morning after Ryan's birthday disaster, I woke up on my friend Megan's couch to a phone buzzing nonstop. 23 missed calls, 11 voicemails, dozens of text messages, all from Ryan. I didn't even need to open them to know what they said. I made myself a cup of coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the screen. The messages came in bursts. First anger, then begging, then guilt-tripping. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You didn't have to do that." "Please, Emily, can we just talk? I made a mistake, okay? I still love you." "Don't do this. You're overreacting." That last one made me laugh out loud. That bitter, broken laugh you only make when you're completely done. Overreacting. That was classic Ryan. Every time something went wrong, he found a way to make me feel like the crazy one. But this time, there was no coming back. I had the proof, the witnesses, the voice recordings. And still, he wanted to talk. I blocked his number again, but the silence didn't last. A few hours later, I got an email. Subject: "Please, Emily, just hear me out. I know I messed up. I can't take back what I did, but please believe me when I say it didn't mean anything. I was stupid. I was drunk. I didn't think. You're the one I want. I'll do anything to fix this. Please don't throw away 4 years. Ryan." I stared at it for a long time. Didn't mean anything? The man had an entire relationship behind my back. He'd lied to my face every single day, and now he wanted to act like it was a one-time slip-up. I didn't respond, but Megan, being the protective best friend she is, had other plans. She showed up in the living room holding her phone. "He just posted something on Instagram," she said. "You're going to want to see this." It was a picture of Ryan, shirtless, looking somber, captioned, "When you lose your best friend because you made one mistake, I'll never forgive myself." The comments were full of sympathy. "We all mess up sometimes, bro. Stay strong, man. Everyone deserves a second chance."
I wanted to throw my phone across the room. He was trying to turn himself into the victim. I left my phone on the couch and went for a walk. Seattle's November air was cold, the kind that bites at your skin and wakes you up whether you want it to or not. I shoved my hands in my pockets and just walked. No destination, no plan. For the first time in weeks, I was truly alone with my thoughts. I kept replaying everything. The moment I met Alex, the text message that started it all, the look on Ryan's face when I played that voice recording. I thought I'd feel satisfied, but mostly I just felt empty. Because the truth is, when someone betrays you like that, it doesn't just break your heart, it rewires it. You start questioning everything. Every I love you, every memory, every promise. When I got back to Megan's apartment, there was a letter waiting on the doorstep. My name was written in Ryan's handwriting. I almost threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a 2-page letter, written like some tragic love story. He talked about how lonely he'd been, how Alex manipulated him, how he'd been stressed from work and made bad choices. But then came the kicker. I ended things with her. I told Alex it's over. She didn't take it well. That line stopped me cold. It sounded ominous. I reread it twice, then texted Megan. "Do you think he's lying about that?" She frowned. "Probably. But if she's as unhinged as he says, maybe it's about to get messy." She was right. The very next day, I found out just how messy. I got a message request on Instagram from someone named Alexandra J. Alex. At first, I didn't want to open it, but curiosity won again. "Hey, Emily, I know you
Probably hate me, but you should know. Ryan's lying to both of us." My stomach dropped. "He told me you two were over months ago," she continued. "He said you were toxic and controlling. He made me believe he was single. And when you exposed him, he blamed me." She attached screenshots, conversations between her and Ryan. "Ryan, she's crazy. I'm just staying until I find my own place. Ryan, you're the only one I really want. Ryan, don't worry, I'll handle her." Each message made my skin crawl. So it was all lies. He'd been manipulating both of us. I texted Alex back. "Why are you telling me this now?" Her reply came almost instantly. "Because I'm done protecting him. You deserve to know who he really is." And then the bombshell. "Also, I think I'm pregnant." I stared at the screen, numb. No words, no thoughts, just a roaring silence in my head. Pregnant. It felt like a punch to the chest. I called Megan, my hands shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. "He got her pregnant," I said, my voice breaking. There was silence on the other end. Then Megan whispered, "Oh my God, Em." The next few days were a blur. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. Every part of me wanted to scream, to throw something, to erase the last 4 years from my memory. But instead, I did what I always do. I survived. Alex kept messaging me. She wasn't mean or defensive. If anything, she sounded broken too. "He told me you were obsessed with him," she wrote. "He made me feel guilty for asking questions. I thought I was the only one being lied to." It was strange, bonding with the woman who'd helped destroy my relationship. But the more we talked, the clearer it became. Ryan wasn't just a cheater. He was a manipulator, a narcissist. He'd played both of us. Then, one night, she sent me something that made my blood run cold. A recording. In it, Ryan was talking to her, his voice low, angry. "If you tell her about this, you'll regret it. Don't screw this up for me, Alex." He'd threatened her. That was the moment everything changed. I wasn't scared anymore.
I was done being the victim. I saved the recording, all the screenshots, and every piece of evidence. Then I emailed it all to Ryan with a simple message. You should have left quietly. He called me within minutes, but I didn't answer. The next morning, Megan and I were having coffee when a knock came at the door. It was Ryan. He looked awful. Bloodshot eyes, messy hair, still wearing the same clothes from the day before. "Emily, please," he said, his voice shaking. "You have to let me explain." Megan stood behind me, arms crossed. "You should leave." But I stepped forward. "Explain what, Ryan? How you lied to me? To her? How you threatened someone you got pregnant?" He ran a hand through his hair. "She's lying. She's trying to ruin me." I laughed bitterly. "You don't need help with that. You're doing a great job on your own." He looked desperate. "I love you, Em. Please, I'll get therapy. I'll change." I stared at him for a long time. Then I said quietly, "You can't fix what you destroyed." And I shut the door in his face. For a long time, I stood there, listening to him knock, beg, plead, and then finally walk away. That night, I cried again. But this time, it wasn't for him. It was for me. For the version of myself who believed in him, who ignored her instincts, who stayed too long. But as I was falling asleep, my phone buzzed. It was Alex. "He's gone crazy. He's been showing up at my job. I think he's stalking me." And that's when I realized I might not be free yet, because Ryan wasn't done. Not even close.
When Alex sent that last message, "He's been showing up at my job. I think he's stalking me," my stomach dropped. I thought I was done with Ryan. I thought I'd close that chapter of my life for good. But clearly he wasn't ready to let it go. I called Alex immediately. She sounded terrified. "He was waiting outside my office," she said, her voice shaking. "He followed me to my car. I told him to leave me alone, but he just kept saying when he needed to talk that he made a mistake and wants to make things right." "Did you call the police?" I asked. She sighed. "They said unless he threatens me or tries to get inside, there's not much they can do." That familiar helplessness crept back in, the same one I'd felt when I first learned about his affair. Except this time, it wasn't just heartbreak, it was fear. For both of us. Over the next few days, things escalated fast. Mayan showed up at my apartment building next. He buzzed the door at 2 a.m., slurring his words, yelling my name. Megan woke up before I did and called security. They escorted him out, but he kept shouting from the parking lot, begging me to talk to him, saying he loved me, saying he wasn't himself anymore. The next morning, I filed a restraining order, but deep down, I knew a piece of paper wasn't going to stop him. That week was hell. I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside my window made me jump. My phone wouldn't stop lighting up with new accounts he made just to message me after I blocked the others. "Please, just talk to me. You don't understand what she's done to me. I can't live without you. If you don't answer me, I'll come find you." That last one sent ice down my spine. I showed it to the police, but they said they needed more evidence that he was an actual threat. So I started keeping records, screenshots, timestamps, photos. I wanted proof if this ever went further. Meanwhile, Alex and I started talking more often. We were both scared, both trying to make sense of how someone we once loved could turn into this obsessive stranger. "He's losing it," she said one night over the phone. "He won't stop texting me either. He keeps saying the baby changes everything, that we need to be a family." "Wait," I said, sitting up. "Did you confirm that you're pregnant?" She hesitated. "I did a test. It was positive. I haven't gone to the doctor yet, but I know." For a long time, neither of us spoke. It was one thing to deal with his manipulation, another to realize there was now an innocent life tangled up in it. We agreed to meet in person, not because we wanted to, but because we needed to. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, sitting by the window,
both wearing sunglasses and ball caps like fugitives. When she walked in, she looked exhausted. "Are you okay?" I asked. She shrugged. "Define okay. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I jump every time I hear a car outside my apartment." "Same," I said softly. We sat in silence for a while before she reached into her purse and slid her phone across the table. "You need to see this." It was a string of messages from Ryan, the kind that made your stomach turn. "If you don't talk to me, I'll tell everyone you trapped me with this baby. You think she'll believe you over me? I'll ruin both of you. You're mine. You always were." I felt sick. "This isn't love," I said quietly. "This is control." She nodded, tears welling up. "I know, but I don't know how to stop him." That's when I decided enough was enough. I wasn't going to let him terrorize us anymore.
I reached out to a friend from college, Lisa, who worked as a paralegal. I told her everything, showed her the messages, the emails, the recordings. She looked at me like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "You have enough evidence to press charges," she said. "This isn't just harassment anymore. It's stalking and intimidation." She helped us file a police report together. This time, it wasn't just my word or Alex's. It was both of us, with evidence stacked an inch thick. When the detective saw the threatening messages, especially the ones mentioning the baby, his expression hardened. "We'll handle it," he said. "You both need to stay somewhere safe." That night, I packed a bag and went to stay with my brother, Ethan, across town. He didn't know the full story, just that I'd gone through a bad breakup. But when he saw how shaken I was, he didn't ask questions. He just handed me a spare key and said, "Stay as long as you need." A few days passed quietly, too quietly. Then one evening, I got a text from an unknown number. "You think you can hide from me?" I froze. I showed it to Ethan, who immediately said, "We're calling the cops." But before we could, the doorbell rang. Ethan went to the window and there he was, Ryan, standing in the rain. He looked soaked, disheveled, eyes wild. He wasn't the charming man I once loved. He looked unhinged. "Emily," he yelled, "please, just talk to me." Ethan stepped outside, keeping himself between us. "You need to leave, man," he said firmly. Ryan's eyes darted to me through the window. "Why are you doing this? I just want to fix things." I didn't move. I just stared at him, the stranger he'd become. Then Ethan said something that made my blood run cold. "She doesn't want to see you, ever again." Ryan's jaw clenched. His voice dropped. "You'll regret this." Then he turned and walked away. We called the police again. They came, took a statement, and promised to increase patrols around the neighborhood. But even after they left, I couldn't shake the fear. The next day, Alex called me, crying. "He broke into my apartment," she sobbed. "I wasn't home, but everything's trashed. He took my laptop and some clothes." I gripped the phone tighter. "Did you tell the police?" "Yes, they're looking for him." That was the moment I realized Ryan wasn't just spiraling. He was dangerous. And if he could do that to her, he could do it to me. That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the house sounded like footsteps. Every shadow outside looked like him. The next morning, I woke up to a news alert on my phone. "Local man arrested after breaking into ex-girlfriend's apartment." It was him, Ryan. They'd found him asleep in his car a few blocks away from Alex's building, drunk and disoriented, with her laptop in the passenger seat. I should have felt relief, but all I felt was exhaustion. It was over, finally. Or at least, I thought it was. A week later, I got another email. No sender name, no subject. Just a single sentence. "You can't keep me locked away forever." I forwarded it straight to the detective. He said they were investigating, that it could have been someone else trying to scare me, but I knew better. It was him. Even behind bars, Ryan wasn't done haunting me. And the worst part? Alex called 2 days later. Her voice was trembling. They released him on bail.
When Alex called me and said the words, "They released him on bail," my world tilted again. After everything, the stalking, the break-in, the threats, they just let him out. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "How is that even possible?" I whispered, pacing the living room of my brother's apartment. "They said he posted bail," Alex said, her voice trembling. "He's not supposed to contact us, but I don't trust that." Neither did I. For days, I jumped at every sound. Every phone buzz made my heart race. I stopped sleeping by the window, stopped walking alone, stopped answering unknown numbers. I told my boss I needed time off work, claiming I was dealing with a family emergency, but really, I was just trying to stay alive. The detective called to reassure me. "He's being monitored. The restraining orders are still in effect," he said. But restraining orders are just words on paper, and Ryan had already proven he didn't care about rules. A week went by with no sign of him. No calls, no texts, no messages. For the first time in months, I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd finally given up. I was wrong. It happened on a Thursday night. I'd gone out for groceries with Ethan, and when we came back, the apartment door was slightly open. Ethan stopped in his tracks. "Did you lock it when we left?" "Yes," I whispered. My pulse was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. He motioned for me to stay back as he stepped inside. The lights were off. The air felt wrong, heavy. Then we heard it, the creak of a floorboard down the hall. Ethan turned toward the sound. "Who's there?" No answer. He grabbed a baseball bat from behind the door, one he kept for just in case, and inched forward. I stood frozen near the entryway, my heart racing, my hands shaking. Then a figure stepped out from the shadows. Ryan. He looked wrecked, pale, sweaty, eyes bloodshot. His once perfect hair was greasy and unkempt, his shirt wrinkled like he hadn't changed in days. "Emily," he said softly, like we were having a normal conversation. "We need to talk." Ethan raised the bat. "Get out, now." Ryan ignored him, his eyes locked on me. "I just need 5 minutes. Please. You have to believe me. She's lying about everything." My voice shook. "Ryan, you broke into my brother's home. You need to leave before this gets worse." He took a slow step closer. "I can't. You don't understand. She's trying to ruin me. I lost my job. My parents won't talk to me. Everyone thinks I'm some kind of monster." "Because you are," Ethan snapped. Ryan's head jerked toward him, his expression twisting with rage. "Stay out of this." Ethan didn't flinch. "This is my house. You have 3 seconds to walk out before I call the cops." Ryan's gaze flicked back to me, desperation burning in his eyes. "Please, Emily, I can't lose you too. I love you." My chest tightened, not because I believed him, but because of how broken he looked. This wasn't love anymore. It was obsession. And obsession is dangerous. "I'm calling the police," Ethan said, pulling out his phone. Ryan lunged. It happened so fast, I barely had time to react. He knocked the phone out of Ethan's hand, grabbed my wrist, and shouted, "Just listen to me." "Let go of her," Ethan yelled, shoving him backward. They struggled, knocking over a lamp. Glass shattered. I scrambled to grab the bat, my hands shaking. Ryan shoved Ethan against the wall and turned toward me, wild, unhinged, breathing hard. "You ruined my life!" he screamed. And that's when I swung. The bat connected with his shoulder, not hard enough to seriously injure him, but enough to knock him off balance. He stumbled, cursed, and before he could recover, Ethan tackled him to the ground. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, and screamed into the receiver. "He broke in! Please, send someone now!" The next 10 minutes felt like hours. When the police finally arrived, Ryan was still shouting as they dragged him outside in handcuffs. He kept yelling my name, swearing, crying, a total breakdown of the man I once thought I loved.
I stood in the doorway, shaking, tears streaming down my face. Ethan wrapped an arm around me, whispering, "It's over. You're safe now." But I didn't feel safe. Not yet. I gave my statement at the station later that night. They told me he'd violated his restraining order and would likely face jail time. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt empty. When I finally got back home, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the bruises forming on my wrist where he'd grabbed me. That was the last time I ever saw him. Ryan was sentenced to 18 months in jail for breaking and entering, harassment, and violating a protection order. Alex testified too. She was 6 months pregnant by then, and seeing her in court, nervous but strong, was the first time I felt genuine closure. After the hearing, she came up to me in the hallway. "Thank you," she said quietly. I shook my head. "No, thank you for being brave enough to come forward." We hugged, two women bound by the same storm, both finally stepping into the light. Months passed. Slowly, life started to feel normal again. I moved into a new apartment across town, started therapy, and focused on myself for the first time in years. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. Some nights, I still woke up sweating, thinking I heard his voice. Some days, I still caught myself checking the locks twice. But gradually, the fear began to fade. Megan would come over with wine, we'd laugh about dumb reality shows, and sometimes in the quiet moments, I'd look around and think, I made it. A few months later, Alex texted me a photo. It was a baby girl. Chubby cheeks, dark hair, bright blue eyes. Meet Lily. She's perfect and safe. I stared at that picture for a long time. Safe. That one word meant more than she probably realized, because for the first time in what felt like forever, I was safe too. Not just from Ryan, but from the guilt, the shame, the what-ifs. I finally understood that closure doesn't come from hearing, "I'm sorry." It comes from letting go of the person who hurt you and choosing yourself instead. The last time I heard about Ryan was from Lisa, my paralegal friend. She said he'd been transferred to another facility after getting into a fight. I didn't ask for details. I didn't care anymore. He no longer had power over me. Sometimes people think betrayal ends when the cheater is exposed, but that's not true. Betrayal lingers in your trust, in your sleep, in the way you flinch when someone says, "I love you." It takes time to heal, but you do. You rebuild. You learn to trust yourself again. You learn that love shouldn't hurt, shouldn't make you smaller, shouldn't leave bruises on your heart. And one day, you wake up, breathe in the morning air, and realize you're finally free. I still keep that old folder, the one labeled "For Me." It's hidden deep on my laptop, filled with screenshots, photos, and evidence. Not because I need it anymore, but as a reminder that I survived, that I walked through hell and came out the other side. And if there's one thing I've learned from it all, it's this. You can't control what people do to you, but you can control how long you let them live in your head. Ryan took enough from me. He doesn't get to take another second.